Is Alvin Kamara the best running back in the world right now? Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are. What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Dark Previews, and in today's video, I'm going to give you some of my best bets for week 3 of the NFL. And yes, one of them is featuring Alvin Kamara. If it's your first time checking out the channel, I encourage you to subscribe because I'm dropping bangers just like this every single day, whether it's NFL, WNBA, the NBA when it turns up. I got you. We're close to 10,000 subscribers. Help your boy get there. Now let's get into it, boys. Let's go. So we're jumping into Outlier. If you did not know, Outlier is my favorite tool to do all of my research on these player props. If you're interested in checking out Outlier, I've got a 7-day free trial in the video description below. I made the switch to Outlier in February this year, and I have made thousands of dollars, and I encourage you guys to check that out. Let's get into the first pick, and I do like Alvin Kamara over 65.5 rush yards in this game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Why? Well, this New Orleans team, it's a pretty run-heavy offense. It's putting up the most points per game this season. They run the ball 64% of the time. And New Orleans, they're favored by 2.5 points at home. So we should see a neutral game script at least, which means they don't have to abandon the run in this game. Now, talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, the defense on the ground, been pretty trash this year. 157 yards per game, allowing 6.5 yards per carry. Now, Kamara smashed this line in the first 2 weeks of this season with 83 and 115 rushing yards. Now, last week, Bijan Robinson, he ran on the Eagles for 97 yards. And the week prior against Green Bay, Josh Jacobs ran for 84 yards on the ground. Now, Alvin Kamara, he's averaging 17.5 rush attempts per game. And the books have set his attempts line at about 14.5. Now, with his average of 5.7 yards per carry this season, that projects him to get 85 yards in this game if he hits those 15 carries. The Eagles, they're allowing 6.7 yards per carry, and that projects him to 100 yards in this game if he carries the ball 15 times. Now, this Hoodma isn't a great way to bet, but there's also a lot of room for error in these projections. I think the risk in this play is if the Eagles were to blow them away, Carr's going to be forced to throw this ball to chase points. But at the same time, the Eagles, they're still missing some key pieces, especially in their offense. And this Saints offense right now is so hard. So I'm looking for the Saints here to keep the game close, even win this damn game, and for Alvin Kamara to keep running the hell out of this ball. So Alvin Kamara over 65.5 rushing yards is my first play. For my next pick, we're taking Jordan Mason. I got him at over 93.5 rush yards. I think this opened up in the high 80s. It's up to 94. By the time this game starts, it's probably going to be 96 to 97. Regardless, this line is moving up, and I am still buying. Firstly, on the matchup, the Rams, absolutely terrible defending the run so far this season, allowing almost 200 yards on the ground. They allow the third most rushing yards to running backs. And the Niners, they're missing some key weapons on offense, so I expect them to run the ball even more. Now, I looked at last year's data combined with the first 2 weeks of this season. The Rams sit in the bottom 12 in terms of rushing yards allowed, but they're so much worse this season, especially in those 2 games. Now, the Niners, 6.5-point favorites in this game, so it's the ideal game script for some rushing yards. Mason, he's taken 28 and 20 rush attempts in this season in the 2 games, and he's had 100-plus yards in both games. So a lot of volume. You can see it in the rush attempts. You can see it in the yards. Now, if we look about the running backs who've done a little bit of damage here up against the Rams, they had Montgomery, 17 attempts, 91 yards. Connor had 122 yards on 21 attempts. Now, for the Niners, Elijah Mitchell ruled out for the year, and Christian McCaffrey is not expected to be back till week 7. So Mason's going to be doing a whole lot of running for the next 4 to 5 weeks. Now, if Mason can maintain a 20-attempt floor, he's running for 100 yards easy in this game. So I do like the Niners to get out on top. The script is excellent, and they just ram the ball down the Rams' throats. How about that? So Jordan Mason, take the over in his rushing yards. I'd take this up to 99.5, to be honest. 100, you're going to be a little bit crazy there. But if it's under 100, I think it's a good look because he's either going to clear this line easily or something chaotic and unpredictable is going to happen, then he's not going to get close. So I'd play up to 99.5 because I know that this line's definitely going to move, especially by the time you've watched this video. So this next pick, well, this is more of a lean, to be honest. It's Tony Pollard over 59.5 rushing yards. And I'll explain why it's a lean, but I do like it. I think it's a good look. Just waiting on something to happen. Firstly, he's covered in both games this season, 82 and 62 yards, averaging 16.5 attempts per game. The Packers, they do rank in the bottom 12 for rushing yards allowed and 6th in yards per carry allowed. So not great at defending the run. And when people do decide to run, they're giving up quite a few yards. Saquon Barkley ran for 109 yards from 24 carries. That was the appropriate game script for the Eagles. Jonathan Taylor ran for 103 yards from 12 carries in a game where the Colts were chasing points. So Tony Pollard, he shares these running back duties with Tyjae Spears, who's questionable with an ankle injury. So this is a lean for now. And the main reason for that is the offensive coordinator from this Titans team. He recently said to the media that the plan is to get Spears and Pollard a more even share of snaps. So if Spears is ruled out for this game, I love Tony Pollard to cover his yards. If he does play, there's a chance that Pollard doesn't see as many snaps. So that's the only thing I'm hesitating on, staying close to the injury report. If Spears is out, then Pollard's a good look. If he's playing, Spears might be a good look, depending on where the line is at and what you can find it. Pumping the brakes real quick to remind you guys to download Boom Fantasy. What I think is the most amazing thing about their app is their pick and wins feature. All you need to do is make a 2-pick entry and spin the wheel. Every time you spin, you get a chance to multiply your winnings by 500x. Now imagine instead of winning $5 on an entry, you had a chance to win $2,500. Now check these guys out. The link is in the video description below. Let's get back to the bet. For my next pick, I'm looking at Derrick Henry, 66.5 rushing yards. He's averaging 65 rush yards so far this season. 46 yards in a loss to the Chiefs and 84 in a heartbreaking loss to the Raiders. I expect this to be close and for the Ravens to look to punish these Cowboys on the ground. Alvin Kamara and co, they ran a train on Cowboys last week, 190 rushing yards. So I'm sure they'll be better defensively, but by how much? The Ravens, they still haven't figured out how to use Derrick Henry, so there's still a lot of room for improvement. But now that I think about it, if the Dallas Cowboys are going to be better against the run, and the game has the potential to go either way, I think I'm going to pivot here. So instead of Henry rush yards, I'm thinking about taking him for a touchdown. Minus 115, do some line shopping. I was able to get him at minus 110, but Derrick Henry get a touchdown in this game. Now, why is that? The Dallas Cowboys do allow the most rushing touchdown this season. In week 1, they had 1 to Jerome Ford, and the Cowboys dominated that game, still gave up a rushing touchdown. In week 2, absolutely smoked. 3 to Kamara, and 1 to Carr in week 2. Now, Derrick Henry scored a touchdown in both games this season. The total for this game is set for 48 points, so there should be ample red zone opportunities for him for Derrick Henry. Take him for 1 touchdown. Absolutely love it. Pivot from there would be the running yards. If you're feeling a bit crazy, put them both together. Derrick Henry go over his yards and to get a touchdown. I personally like the touchdown play a little bit better, but I do like them both. Next look that I have is a lean. Is Zamir White over his rushing yards. So this line's moved up to 59.5. I had it at 57.5 when I was looking at it last night. Didn't ultimately place the bet, but we'll get to that in a minute. Zamir White is the lead running back. He's taking 56% of the rush attempts for this team. He's only had 44 and 24 rushing yards this season, though. The Raiders pretty much chasing points in both games. So for the most part, they've had to abandon the run game. They're only running the ball 33% of the time so far. But in his last 4 games last season, you can check that out. I'm using that as a reference point. He was an absolute machine, rushing for 69, 145, 71, and 112 yards. And the Raiders ran the ball close to 50% of the time, given the favorable game scripts. So the Raiders won 3 out of those 4 games. And we saw White average 20 carries per game over those 4 games. The Raiders are up against the Panthers as 5-point favorites at home. The Panthers are rebuilding, and that's evident by the scorelines that we've seen so far. 47-10 loss on the road to the Saints, and then a 26-3 home loss against the Chargers. Now they drop Bryce Young, and Andy Dalton steps in, which I do think keeps the Panthers somewhat competitive. But still, the run defense for the Panthers is absolutely trash, second worst in the NFL. And I think this is also a nice buy low spot for Zamir White, who's underperformed for the first 2 weeks. I think it's a lean right now. Just hasn't proven himself so far this year. I do still think it is a breakout spot, but at the same time, I'm being somewhat conservative this week, but who knows? I could be tempted to play this closer to the game, but given the odds keep moving up, I probably won't. I'm kicking myself now. I had a chance to get a 57. Now it's up to 59. I'll probably do some line shopping. If I can still find it at 57, I'll probably take that bet. But Zamir White, I do like his over and his rushing yards. So with my next pick, we're looking at Marvin Harrison Jr. over 59.5 receiving yards. Now, I don't like betting on receiving props, but I guess one a week won't hurt. I've done research on a lot of receivers this week, but from all the ones that I have researched, this is the one that I do like the most. Now, Marvin Harrison, he led the Cardinals in targets last game. He had 8, went off for 130 receiving yards. He gets an elite matchup here against a very young Lions secondary. The Lions' run D is excellent, so Murray should be forced to throw the ball a lot more than he did in the last game against the Rams. The Lions, they also ranked dead last in receiving yards to wide receivers this season. Check out these numbers right here. These are the wide receivers' yards versus the Lions. Kupp had 110. Johnson had 79, and Godwin had 117. Marvin Harrison, young, full of untapped potential. The matchup is perfect, and I think this game's going to be pretty close, and it should be high scoring as well. So looking for the midget to find Marvin Harrison in this one, get them damn yards up. Hell, I might even be tempted to play Marvin Harrison for 100 receiving yards as well. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm working on another video as we speak. Going to have some juicy content for the WNBA playoffs. Best of luck to you. Gamble responsibly if you want to. Not really. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.